Good morning. Great to be back. It was good to have some time away and some time visiting the various holy sites, but great to be back. And what a wonderful day it is to be back with you, as it's our patronal feast, the feast day of St. Clare, which means that for us it's a solemnity, hence the Gloria, and we'll say the Creed. I think technically there's supposed to be a second reading, but yeah, anyway. St. Clare, of course, is known for, as we heard in the opening prayer, her love of poverty, that she embraced poverty. What does it mean to embrace poverty? Especially living in the modern world where we have everything at our fingertips, where you can order something on Amazon this morning and it'll be here by 1 p.m. in many cases. What does it mean to embrace poverty? Well, for St. Clare, it meant renouncing everything of the world. It meant rejecting her own inheritance, rejecting her family's wealth, rejecting all the finery, and going into a life of monasticism, entering a monastic life, starting an order, looking to St. Francis, who lived a real radical poverty, looking to Francis and saying, I want to live like that. And then other women saw it and said, we want to live like that too. We want to reject the ways of the world and live like that. Now, people are called to the monastic life. People are called to that life of asceticism, but not very many are. And generally, they're examples to us, radical examples in some cases, like hermits, or there's the several kind of various iterations of the Franciscans that have popped up in the last few decades. The CFRs in New York, there was this order of Franciscans that was at the seminary with us for a little while. They were like primitive observants. They didn't wear shoes. The rector told them they had to wear shoes when they were in the rectory, or when they were in the refectory eating, because that was gross. But also it was that like real reminder, wow, these people are really embracing a life of poverty. What does it mean for us to embrace a life of poverty? All of us are called to that in some sense. The three theological counsels, poverty, chastity, and obedience. All of us are called to a life of chastity, whether within the vocation of marriage or within the vocation to priesthood or religious life, or whether we live a single life. We're all called to obedience because we have to be obedient to God. We're also called to be poor, to not live for this world, not to live in a way in which we continue to be attached to the things of this world. If we were to lose everything in a fire, if we were to have a great flood come and wash everything away, and we got into a big boat, let's call it an ark, and there were animals there, Frank the cat just constantly meowing. Would we be just heartbroken? Would we be destitute? Or would we maybe say, thank God for my life? Thank God for the gift of my life. St. Clare and religious like her, in a just very profound way, show us that way to embrace poverty. What ways can we embrace poverty in our own lives? Well, that's why we do things like penances. That's why on Friday's always a day of penance, we ought to have something there. Traditionally, it's abstaining from meat, but perhaps there are better things that we can do, things that are more appropriate just to us in our own life, to not put sugar in your coffee, to not season your food, to put a rock in your shoe. That's a tough one, the rock in the shoe. Sometimes walking down from the rectory, I get a rock in my shoe, inadvertently walking on the gravel. But to really be able to say, Lord, I want to be more like you, and you were poor, right? Even in the gospel, we see Jesus relying on Peter to pull a fish out of the water to be able to pay the temple tax. We're not going to get into that gospel because it's hard to explain this gospel. We're just going to talk about St. Clare. St. Clare's other attribute, of course, is her devotion to the Eucharist. She's depicted with the monstrance on top of the Bible because the story goes that the Saracens came to sack the monastery and do unspeakable things that Saracens would do to a bunch of women. And she went and retrieved the Blessed Sacrament and held it out the window, and they were defeated miraculously. And so I think it's important for us to know that in our poverty, in our reliance on God, we can go to Him in the Eucharist, right? Whether that's through receiving the Eucharist frequently, whether that's through spending time in adoration before the Blessed Sacrament, whether that means signing up for a 2 a.m. hour or 3 a.m. hour. Any other ones available? Yeah, a lot of them available. Keep Mike and Karen from having to come in 14 times a day. To sacrifice a little bit and spend that time in the Blessed Sacrament. That sacrifice is an expression of poverty as well. So I'm going to deprive myself of that hour of sleep. I'm going to deprive myself of wanting to go and do this thing that I wanted to do. And I'm going to spend time in the presence of Christ. Because I know He gives me strength. I know that He does for me what I can't do for myself. I know that in relying on Him and not relying in the ways of this world, that I can grow in holiness, that I'm configured more and more to Him, and that I'm brought closer to the Father. So on this feast day of our patroness, St. Clare, let us pray in a special way for our parish, for all the souls within the boundaries of our parish. Let us pray that we all may fall into deeper love with Jesus Christ, that we may trust in Him, that we may renounce the things of this world, we may embrace that poverty, and we may embrace Him most especially in the most holy Eucharist as He gives Himself to us so that we can become more like Him.